I'm so excited to have you here today. It is just such a special time. I just have this feeling, like life is good. Life is so good. And I really, I just came to this point. So, if those of you, because there's a lot of new people in my world. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Michael Edwards, and I have been on the most extraordinary journey. I was a professional dance teacher for most of my adult life before I did what I do now, and I taught at a really high level. And you can't do anything at a high performance level without a huge part of it being about mindset. So there's always been a huge part of what I've done that's been about mindset. But everything changed when I met Marissa Peer and decided to train with her because when she taught me to put people into hypnosis and regress them and take them back to the most pivotal, transformational, shaping moments of their life, I started to understand people on this whole other level. It's you get past all of the stories people tell and all of the reasons they come up with, and you just go straight to it. What happened to me? How did it change the way I feel about myself? How did it change the way I think about myself? And as you start to do it more and more, you start to see patterns. And in the seeing of patterns, you start to really understand people. And one of the most incredible gifts of my career so far is that I started in this place where I was really helping people with massive trauma. And it made so much sense because I had so much unresolved trauma that I didn't even realize to heal from. So, in the beginning of the journey, I was helping people with things like PTSD and crippling anxiety and all this stuff. And I got to take them back on this journey through their own mind and get them to use their own mind to heal themselves and change the way they saw themselves, what they viewed as possible. And what started to happen is what I can only describe as miracles, as these miracles, as people started to change and heal. But as I got recognized in this industry really quickly, I started to really get a buzz about me, and more people started to come to me for different things. And as I healed myself and I started to grow and evolve, I started to ask myself a question because I would see people just heal and then kind of go off, and sometimes they would come back and just I was always left start to be left with this feeling like, but what about everything else? What about everything else you could do? What about everything else you could become? Because I think a lot of us, when we've had bad our whole lives or we've been in pain, all we can see is getting out of the pain. We don't even think about all the good that we could create. And so as I started to create more good in my life, more success, more amazing things, and grow, I started to ask myself, what if I took this tool, this incredible tool of RTT and hypnosis and the understanding of the mind that's never really, the method isn't even a decade old, it's so new, this tool that's never existed in the history of the world. What if I took this and I started to apply it to different things? What if I started to apply it to growth? And I kind of used myself as a guinea pig, and I put myself in rooms with more and more successful people. And then they started to come to me and ask me to be my client, not because they had trauma or stress or all these things, but because they were doing amazing things. They were building multi-million-dollar brands to change the world, creating heart-led businesses in a new paradigm, and they were blocked. And they asked, "There's something holding me back. I don't know what. Can you help me?" And I would say, "Yeah, I can." And so I started to work with people that were already doing extraordinary things that wanted to do more. And I kind of, without really intentionally realizing to, I started to develop this map. This, I sort of was like, okay, this person's at this point in their journey, person's at this point in their journey. And because I was taught by some of the best in the world how to get to what's going on really quickly, I could see in a few sentences of talking to someone where they're at in their journey. And for a long time, I was like, there's this thing that I see, I don't know what it is. There's this thing that I see and I don't know what it is. And then the world's word self actualization came across my radar. And this was something that lit up. I was like, that's what it is. It's taking out all the bad. It's healing from all the trauma. It's letting go of all the limiting belief, closing all the thought loops, letting go of what your story was supposed to be and writing the story of who you are. Because I deeply, deeply believe that each and every one of us came into this world with gifts that we are meant to share. And I think that it is in the sharing of those gifts and tapping into the truest, most beautiful, unapologetic expression of ourselves that we create all the things that we desire. And so, what I'm going to share with you today is my map of these stages of self actualization. And I love creating content like this for free to share because I think it helps everyone. I think it's exciting. I think it helps you see where you are. But I also, it helps people understand because this masterclass is also in response to a question that I guess asked all the time, which is what exactly is it that you do? And what I finally figured out is the reason that I could struggle to answer that question is that it depends when you are. And so when you are in your journey matters what I do because the thing at that point is different. So this is also to help many people that have been asking me, what exactly do I do? Understand what it is that I do when you are in the journey. And I also just finally want to say that this is a framework. It's not, I think sometimes in, psychology, personal development world, we get really into this is exactly what this is. And now we have to try and force every single thing out there into this exact framework or structure. What I find is that all of these things are beautiful guidelines, like putting on a different pair of glasses to look at the world and see something a little bit differently. And so I just want to say this isn't law, this isn't everything. This is my framework for understanding based on a lot of experience. And people are not necessarily, I'm stage 2 and stage 2 for everything. Sometimes it's like you have stage 4 emotional intelligence and stage 2 financial awareness. So just if you look at that and you're like, you can see where we're in different places. And it's really interesting because sometimes the very story that keeps us in that place where we're advanced in one area and not another is a story. A lot of people will say things like, my family is loving, and it's because we don't have money because rich people have lost their soul, or something like that. So, not only are there pieces that keep us from moving forward, but there are pieces that lock us into not advancing in certain areas. So, this is the first time I've ever made a PowerPoint. So, where I'm going to be sharing this with you today. So, as I sat with this and I thought about what are the stages, like if I could just pick one word, I feel like stage one is hardship. And I also want to say that I've been through every stage of this in my journey. So, I speak to a lot of this from personal experience and emotion. Stage one is the feeling that life is hard, that it will never get better, that this is the way things are, and you don't have the power to control them. It's looking to the external world and saying, this is what is real, and I am just in it. Next, the next stage is resistance. And this is really interesting because as we get into this second stage, we actually have more awareness than we did at the first stage, but we don't yet have the tools and the capacity to deal with everything we're aware of. So, a lot of the time, this is a stage where people experience the most frustration, the most anger. They're like, I can see the traps. I can see that I was raised this way. I can see that this stuff happened and it affected me. And I'm mad because I feel powerless in the face of it. The next stage is when we've done a certain amount of growth and healing and we're kind of striving. maybe we're entrepreneurs or maybe we've got a career, but there's the grind. This is, I find, very much where people get stuck in the hustle. It's, I know that more is possible. I can do more, but, but. And stage four is when we start to feel limitless. When all the resistance, the density, the weight of what life feels like starts to fall away. And instead of looking at the external world and saying, this is what is, we look at our internal world and we say, this is what is. I am the creator of my reality. And many of us have heard this sentence before, but having it land as a deep, profound, unshakable knowing is a very different thing than a quote on the internet. And so the first thing that I looked at with this is perspective. What do we look at? It's a low awareness of self. It's a low awareness of our inner world, feeling, like I said, like no power, like things are happening to them. And this is the stage where people are stuck. And this was me. I remember a partner said to me when I was 25, I think some of the reasons are the way that you are is because of the way that you were raised. And that was really strange to me. It was the first time I'd ever been like, what do you mean? I was raised like everybody else. Like nothing was different, because I couldn't see how much things in my past had affected me. I couldn't see the stories that I was telling myself. And so the very idea that I could be something and experience something other than I had and other than I was seemed so foreign to me. And then we move into stage two, which is circumstantial power. It's when circumstances are good, I feel good. And when circumstances are bad, I feel bad. The outer world defines my experience. Is comfortable when circumstances permit. And this is, like I was saying, this often comes to a level of awareness where we're really mad, where it starts to be like, okay, I can see all of this stuff and I'm mad. I'm mad. This is where a lot of social justice stuff from a place of anger comes from, because you can see the patterns, but you don't know how, you haven't figured out how to change them. Beyond this is circumstantial personal power. This is, I'm starting to really step into my personal power. This means I start to lead. I start to decide the experience that I'm having. And as we grow into this, it happens on kind of a gradient. At first it's I can do it when things are pretty good and in some hardship, but when things are really hard, I'm not quite there yet. And that's okay, because it's like a muscle that we build. And in this stage, this is where we start to have forgiveness and acceptance. We start to forgive those that hurt us. We start to accept them for who they are. This is the stage that I was in a long time, where I moved from being mad at my family and my parents to working on forgiving them. And then they'd make me mad again, and then I'd have to work on forgiving them again. And then it was like this, I thought that that was just the work, that was it. It would always just be keep working on forgiveness, keep work on understanding. But then I stepped into true personal power and self-awareness, which is I am the one. I have decided who I am going to be, the energy that I am going to live in, and this comes with me all the time. I have an unshakable, unbreakable connection to myself, my energy, and who I am. And at this stage, we get comfortable with the uncomfortable. We lean into what I call our edges, into the uncomfortable places, because we know where discomfort lives is where growth happens. And people at this stage, they view the down not as a down, but as their ability to hold the up. Things get hard. Life throws me a curveball. Oof, this is the test. Do I really have personal power? Do I have it locked in? Yes, I do, or maybe no, I don't. And something amazing happens in the way we look at the world and the way we look at people that have trauma, that created the systems that maybe made us feel oppressed at one time. We don't look at it as the person. We look at it as something that happened to them. Something moved through my family line, and I decided that it stops with me. And I don't even have to forgive at that point because I just understand human beings so deeply that it wouldn't make sense to blame. Everyone is a response to what happened to them. The difference is I've chosen to not be a response, but to be an initiation. The next is huge, is our feelings of love and worthiness, which moves from feeling unlovable to feeling so lovable. And one of the most amazing things that I learned on my journey and was huge in my personal transformation was the understanding that we only let in love to the degree which we love ourselves. And so a child who felt neglected by their parents, someone who felt heartbroken by their first partner, someone who felt rejected by all their friends at school, someone who spent their whole childhood feeling like they didn't fit in, will develop this deep knowing, let's call it, I don't belong and I'm not lovable. And you see, whatever we believe, our mind works to make real, and then it looks for proof. And so we go out into the world and we find proof of everything we believe. We find proof of how we don't fit in. We find proof of how we aren't lovable. And this is this is so sad because people will reject love wherever it is simply because they don't feel lovable. I can't tell you how many mothers I've worked with who are surrounded by love and their children tell them all the time, "You're the best mom in the world. I love you." And they reject it because they don't feel that they're enough. In this moment in hypnosis where they suddenly see it all and their mind rearranges and there's this flood of emotion, tears pouring down their faces, they realize that the reason that people say it to them every day is because they're actually lovable, is one of the most amazing things for me to witness and for people to experience. Stage two is that we feel like we need others in order to feel love. The idea of love, it's okay, there's love, but I'm only loved when I'm in a relationship. I'm only loved when someone's praising me. I'm only loved when someone's there. And this person, because they feel like they need to go and get love from the outside, will self-betray. This is where a lot of people pleasing comes in. It's, I need validation and love, so I will put my needs aside to go and get it wherever I can. At stage three, we start to cultivate self-love. And this is a real nuance. This stage three to stage four is a real tricky business. This is like where my skill set is. This is my sword, my skill. Because the self-love is there, but it's tied to the old identity. I found my ability to love the person that came out of the childhood and the past that I experienced, but I have not yet stepped into the truth of who I am and been able to love myself for that. It's a real nuance, but when the shift happens, it's incredible. And this person also seeks stage three is all about comfort. It's like life here is pretty good, so let me just stay comfortable. And this person also will tends to seek relationships that are comfortable rather than expansive. Stage four, this person feels lovable and complete for themselves, via themselves. They know that love is limitless because their love is limitless. Their ability to love themselves is the amplifier for all the love in their life. Because love isn't something we give away and then we have less of. Love is something we amplify. And as we amplify the love for ourselves and we radiate it out into the world, people feel that energy and they love us. And we can give and receive love in abundance. They seek relationships that enrich rather than define because there's no need for someone to be there. It's I'm in a loving, amazing, complete relationship with myself. And so if you want to be in my life, you better be good because it's pretty good the way that it is. And this person seeks relationships that are expansive. Janine's making a funny face. She's financial intelligence. And this is one of the biggest pieces that people have a story about, that it's not okay to have wealth, that it's not okay to make more, that money is bad, that rich people are evil. I was just talking to someone the other day who was saying, he's like, I really want to build wealth and financial freedom, but I never want to be, I never want to be, I never want to be, I never want to be. And it was like, okay, so don't be any of those things. The story that you have to be this and be bad is just a story. And it's one of the biggest things that we have to set ourselves free from. And so again, this starts with money controls you. We hear it every day. Every decision in my life is controlled by money. Do I want to get this organic groceries? I have to check with money's permission, yes or no. I want to go on this vacation. I have to check with money's permission, yes or no. And what I find is that people at this stage hate money, and they hate people that have money, and they hate without realizing that the whole act of hating is holding them in resistance of the thing that they want, because they hate because they wish that they had the freedom, but the hate holds them. How can you tell your mind, your soul, your being, your heart every day, I hate money, money is evil, and then have money? You can't. It doesn't make sense. But for so many people, that's the program. That it's not even that they're feeding their line, that they learned, that they downloaded from parents. And so they feel powerless. They feel the system is rigged. They believe advancement is not possible, and they often have little or no financial security. Getting into stage 2, there's this link between money and hard work. Money only comes via hard work. We think in really linear terms. Let me get a 5% raise per year, a 10% raise. Let me pay off my debt little bit at a time. Let me really mitigate risk, because I only think about what's known. So if I've only ever made this much and I take on this risk, then it's going to take me this long to pay it off if it doesn't go right. They don't think about how quickly could I get my business to $100,000 month and just erase everything that I've been worrying about. They're playing not to lose instead of playing to win. This person in stage 3 is straddling the fields of predictability and possibility. They've gotten out of being stuck and they see what's possible. They've seen these entrepreneurs, they've seen their friends pull ahead. They've seen glimpses of people do extraordinary things, have extraordinary things, create extraordinary things. But the weight of the evidence of what has always been known holds them back from fully expanding into what's possible. They want to believe in more, but because they're tied to predictability and safety, they say, give me the evidence. Give me the evidence. Give me the evidence. And what they don't realize is that their whole life, their mind has been trained to look for evidence of the bad. So there will always be this insurmountable stack of evidence of the bad to stop them from fully taking the leap. The person at this level usually has enough financial intelligence to invest in assets like the stock market and real estate. I don't know why I said that, but that was an afterthought. It's just a piece of the puzzle. And stage 4 is you control money. I make money dance. Money is my biatch. It's money is limitless because I'm limitless. I'm limitless. My ability to create, my ability to strategize, my ability to pivot, my ability to be is limitless. I'm limitless. The money isn't limitless because money is limitless. The money is limitless because I'm limitless. The money is just paperwork. And at this stage, we really start to compound things. We use money to make more money in all kinds of crazy ways. I call it magic money. And people at this level have the awareness, because they're so aware of the value of their internal world and that everything in their external world comes because it's a match for who they are. These people invest in themselves deeply, deeply. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a coach. It's like I've seen it everywhere. I went to this wedding a while ago and people kept asking me what I did, and I kept having to explain. I didn't have this presentation yet. I kept having to explain, and everybody was like, didn't really get it. And then everybody there that was a multimillionaire had built these big businesses and were like, oh yeah, like a personal coach. I've spent, 6 figures on coaching in my life because it's huge. It's about time and growth. And they see themselves as financial security. We see people, he's not my favorite person, obviously, but like Donald Trump and other big people lose everything and they get it right back. because they weren't great because they had the money. They had the money because they were great. And so the greatness stays and the money comes and goes, and it only comes back because of the skill sets, the knowledge, the value of the internal world. It's a very different thing than when we think, if I lose everything I have nothing. This person says, I'll risk everything I have because I am everything. Oh, I lost my clicking. And finally, what I believe is the most important stage, which is emotional intelligence. I think, in addition to the healing itself, this has been the biggest shift. And I would say this is the piece that got me from stage 3 to stage 4. And I want to say too, stage 4 is infinite. It's like stage 4 and then the level up of stage 4 and then the level up and then it's like continued expansion and growth over a lifetime. But where this starts is being ruled by emotions. I get angry and I lose myself. And I do things and I say things and I have to apologize later because I just became a reaction. That was me. I used to just be a reaction to everything. And we go through this journey of healing and understanding, and emotions become our greatest gift. And so, starting over here, stage 1 is no emotional intelligence, so reactive. Stage 2, this used to be me. I used to think that emotional intelligence was just labeling emotions. I was like, that's anger, put a label on that. That's sadness, put a label on that. And I was like, this is it. I have emotional intelligence. I can label my emotions. That's it. Little did I know. Tends to be at this stage, we think we're a lot further ahead than we are, and we're filled with defense mechanisms. A relationship really hurt me, so I'm just never going to be in a relationship anymore. I had this failure in business and it was devastating, so I'm just never going to do business anymore. Our intelligence of emotions is just avoiding the ones that we don't like, which is not intelligent at all. Then we move into what I call an intelligence of emotion. We start to really experience our emotions as a somatic experience because our body is the lens through which we experience our emotions and ourselves. We start to find the feeling of courage in our heart. We start to feel the feeling of sadness in our chest. And when those feelings come, instead of telling ourselves a story, we just feel them. We let things process. One of the biggest insights that helped me really understand this is when I work with people at different stages, I can tell when there's unprocessed or processed emotion when I regress them. So someone with unprocessed emotion will tap into an experience and they will just bawl and be overcome with emotion because there's all of this energy and emotion that's trapped in their nervous system that was never processed. The grief I felt at a loss, the shame I felt in a divorce, the hurt I felt as a child, it's been living inside their body their whole life. They've thought about it and maybe done some cerebral work, but it's the processing that sets you free. And it can only be experienced. It can't really be understood. And this is where we have enough awareness, enough courage to go into the physical, visceral experience of our emotions and feel them and remove the defense mechanisms. It's not, can I make a list of 10 things about red flags and filter people out so I don't go on a date with anyone that's wrong? Can I roll myself back to a place of innocence where I can love like I've never been hurt? Can I find the courage to try again in my business, in my personal life, in whatever, like I've never fallen down? Can we remove the defense mechanisms and just be wholly, authentically, unapologetically our feeling selves? I find, and I put this here too with the fragmentation to wholeness, I find in order to understand a lot of it, we take ourselves apart. We have psychology and emotions. We have the conscious. We have the subconscious. We have the inner child. We have the parent. There's all this stuff, and that's fine. Those are all great frameworks to understand it. But then you're like a Russian doll that's been all taken apart. And what we want is to be put together. We want to be one whole, one energy, one being. And so as we heal all the different parts of ourselves, the journey becomes Can I put myself together? Can I be one whole? And what happens is emotions become our intelligence because they're free of the defense mechanisms, they're free of the stories, they're free of the programming of the inner child. We experience fear, but we experience it as our adult empowered self. And we go, fear tells me when things are important, and I decide to run towards it. We experience anger and we're not overcome by it, but instead, anger tells us that we're passionate about something. And so the very feeling itself gives us an insight into who we are in the moment. Our mind is slow. It takes time to catch up. You're in an experience with someone and there's something off. You don't catch it with your head in the moment. You figure it out later after they do something crappy, but your feelings know in the moment. And if you clear out your feelings, then your feelings, your instincts, your intuition, they become your guidance. You catch things in the moment. You get out of overthinking and into being. It changes everything. Another way to say this is you stay intelligent while emotional. Yeah, and they said here, this I was just like, "What did I write?" What I wrote is brilliant. Becomes 100% superior method of guidance. I decide everything in my life, in my business now based on my intuition and how I feel, and people think that that's crazy, but it's the very thing that's 10x'd everything. My happiness, my joy, my relationships, my income, my success. It's incredible. And so there's the shifts. The question, if I'm here or someone I know is here, how do we get to here? And you see, there's an obstacle because once you start to really understand people, there's always a good, we never really do anything bad to hurt us. There's always a good reason for something. There's always a payoff. And so if you stay in stage one, the payoff is that nothing ever has to be your fault. And for some people, nothing ever being their fault is a greater reward than what they would have to take on in taking that personal accountability and responsibility. And I want to really emphasize too, some of us were dealt, all of us were dealt different hands. And some of us were dealt a really shitty starting hand. But there comes a point in your life when no matter what you started with, it's only you that can make the change. It's the realization that no one is coming to rescue me. I have to be my own savior. The biggest shifts at this point are perspective shifts, taking on accountability and responsibility and just acknowledging trauma. Not even not even dealing with it, just acknowledging that it exists is a shift. And unfortunately, because our mind is wired to reject whatever's unfamiliar, and because this person hasn't learned yet how to learn and how to grow, they're very, very resistant to feedback. They're very, very resistant to new ideas. And usually the only thing that's a catalyst for someone at this point is hitting rock bottom. Rock bottom is something that shakes us up and will initiate change. Moving from stage 2 to stage 3, the biggest obstacle here is to continue growing when we're no longer suffering. A lot of people, like I said, is I just want to get out of bad and then I'll stay where I am. And it's hard to tap into humility because in order to get out of stage 2, you've got to challenge beliefs that you've believed your whole life and go, maybe I was wrong. And that takes a lot. This is the stage 2, I think, where a lot of people, this is where I lived most of my life. This is where we're like, it's not bad, but it's not amazing. The biggest shift in this stage is the healing of trauma. And when I say trauma, I don't just mean, abuse. I mean all of the little things, feeling emotionally neglected, feeling unwanted, feeling unseen, feeling unheard, being told you're not enough, being told you'll never be anything. All the things that teachers said to us growing up, that parents said to us growing up, all the things that chipped away at our knowing that we were enough. And for a lot of us, what I find is people at this stage have a conscious awareness of healing, but it's not that deep, deep, deep subconscious belief shifts, heart shifts. And so a lot of the time, what it takes is just the decision, I'm going to be more. and the recoding of these deeply held beliefs. And I just forgot what I was gonna say. When we're at this stage too, I think I just think there's just like this wave of humility, of letting go of what was and being like, "Okay, I'm gonna be open. I'm gonna be open to go deep. I'm gonna be open to talk about the past. I'm gonna be open to see what else." And I find a lot of people, once they're in this stage, are more open to growth. So a lot of times it's, and again, this is just, the gist of what I'm saying. Rock bottoms are always a motivator, but a lot of times it'll be a life event, a breakup, a career change, a death in the family, moving places, moving jobs. A lot of times will initiate. How can I better myself? How can I be a different version of myself? This will often initiate growth. But again, if we don't look outside of what we know, then we don't actually grow. So a lot of people will be in this stage and they think that they're growing, but they're not actually taking in any new information because the mind wants to go back to what's familiar. So it'll be like, I'm not going to look at this thing because it seems too woo woo. And I'm not going to look at that because we're not like those people. So it's like they are trying to grow, but it's kind of like spinning the wheels in the mud. In stage 3 to stage 4, this is where momentum builds and the magic happens. And the biggest obstacle that I found between stage 3, between things are good and things are great, is they think that they already know it all. And the reason this is because a lot of people at stage 3 cerebrally understand stage 4 concepts. They understand them in their mind. They've heard them so many times and they repeat them. They even tell people to them and share them on their social media. But it's not the understanding that makes it work. It's the embodying. And the reason this work works for me and the reason that I'm able to lead people where I lead them is because this work isn't what I do. It's who I am. And I find a lot of the time when I work with people, and even a lot of the people here will attest to this, it's like they've heard this thing over and over and over, and then they hear it from me and it just lands. They get it. And then they sort of, Dion shaking, yes, that's me. They start to be it. And my feeling, they can't see the last lines of the slide. I'm sorry. I don't know. It's my first slide. I can't, I'll read it to you. They start to be it. And my feeling is that you can only get it from someone that is it. So you can't get it from a social media meme. You've got to get it from someone that lives it because only they can communicate the understanding. And this person asks how instead of who. When we get to this level, it's not about how. The how is irrelevant. Every how is possible for the person in stage 4. The person is, who do I have to be to create that self? Who do I have to be in order to have that? Who is the question? And one of the biggest blocks from going from stage 3 to stage 4 is that this person is often triggered by the very person that can help them get to the next stage. I feel threatened. I feel triggered by the very person that has and is the thing that I want to be. And so I never ask help because there's this deep, deep wounding that comes up. And so they hold themselves back from that learning. And the biggest shifts in this point are an identity shift and what I've started to call a polarity shift. And the polarity shift, this is literally the piece that changed, like all of it changed my life, but like this changed everything for me. It was when the person that I am now became my reality. And the person that I was born as and the childhood that I have is just an idea. It was like, up to that point, it was like, yes, I'm a great version of myself that's grown out of what I experienced, but I am still the kid that grew up and went through this experience. In this shift, it's I am the creator now. I am the reality of Michael Edwards, growing into more of me. But it's like, it's if I could paint it on a timeline, it's like the energy flows from now back to the past and into the future. It's kind of esoteric. It's kind of hard to explain. I don't know if I can fully explain it because it's something that you have to experience. But it's I see myself so differently. I see my life so differently. And the things that have become possible in timelines that barely make sense are just, they're like here in the palm of my hand. And what I found for a lot of us is it takes a leap of blind faith. For me, it was deciding to go all in on this on a level that, like, I can't even tell you how much I risked. I risked everything that I had, and then I risked some more in the belief that this was what I was meant to do, and this is where I was going, and I bounced like a rubber ball before I hit the bottom, and it's just been the sky's the limit. The sky's not even the limit ever since. And so I think the biggest thing that's a catalyst is just seeing. My whole life, I had seen other people find their thing and just take off. I know it's possible because I've seen others do it. They find their thing and they just skyrocket to an amount of success that I can barely even comprehend, but I've seen it. And I go back and I'm at work with people and they're like, oh, life's hard. You can never have this thing. But I'm like, but this person, they cracked the code. There's something there. Like, oh, but it's just, you can't have that. And they're lucky and they're this and they're that. And they had rich parents. But it's, but it's not because this other person that didn't have rich parents also had that. Oh, but they had this and this. But it keeps happening. It's not often, but I keep seeing this thing happening. I used to call them shiny people. It's like there's shiny people, and then sometimes other people just become shiny people. And I don't know what happens, but I can see that it's happening and it really bugs me because if other people do it, I feel like I can do it. And I get that it's really hard, but there's got to be a way. I want to be a shiny person. Damn it. That's what my inner monologue sounded like. I think for a lot of us, it's a spiritual awakening. Yes, all the stories. There's a spiritual awakening, and then just this honoring of a feeling. There's got to be something more. And so for you, this is my map of what I've seen, the changes. And so the answer to the question, what is it that I do, is I lead people through this journey. I help them move through the stages. I've become what other people have called a master healer to help people heal from the oldest and deepest wounds, to go into the deepest part of your mind and your soul and help you shift your belief the very way you see yourself, and to be an expander for what's possible. So, depending on where you are, depends on what place you meet me on this journey. And so, I hope that through this, you've been able to see kind of where you are, where you can go, and what's possible, and more. That for those of you that have been there with me, and some of you have known me, like Janine has known me since I was a little chicken nugget dance teacher, and like I have come so far. So I hope you let as well it be the journey of what's possible, because I can share all the testimonials, and I've got some up, I've got lots up on my website, my social media, and I've got more, even more amazing ones coming. But the truth is that I, I know all of this is the thing because it's changed my life. The person that I was before I started this journey of healing couldn't imagine who I am and what I have now. Even when I was done healing, as I would have said at one point of time, the fact that I could have grown into this, the fact that I could have this business that I love, this opportunity to help people change their lives, to feel the way I feel, having the success that I have. I have a mastermind running right now called The Missing Piece, and it's only the second week, and it's specifically for coaches and therapists. And we all cried together this morning because people are already getting breakthroughs that I know are going to change their lives. That's what I want for everyone. It's not about going and getting wealth and fame and all this stuff on the outside. It's about having an experience of life where you become everything that you could possibly be, and you live life like there's no limit. And you get to have that freedom that we all talk about, but not just as an idea, like an experience where you live with love and authenticity, where you share your gifts with the world and you're rewarded by them. And you get to be you, fully, beautifully self expressed. It's making me emotional because it's like the greatest gift that I think any of us can achieve in this lifetime. I want everyone to feel the way that I feel. I want everyone to have success and have it feel the way that it feels for me. And I believe in my soul that it is possible for each and every one of us. I believe because of where I used to be and where I am. And I really believe this. If I can do it, you can do it. And I think that there's this energy in the personal development industry. It's you can do it too. But as I've seen the truth more deeply, it's a different energy. It's a You can do it too, but will you? And that really is the question to ask yourself, because I can tell you to where I've gotten, there's just nothing like it. And I however you get there, I hope that you will put that back in the realm of what's possible for you, because it is possible. Start to question everyone. Yeah, it's the questioning. It's the questioning that moves us forward. It's the how, it's the who, it's the what if. Start to live in the field of possibilities. I'm in the beginning. Where do I start? You start where you are, and you don't compare your journey to anyone else's. It's if I had looked at where I am now, I was talking about this morning. If I had looked at where I had just had a friend say to me, she's "I'm launching this offer. I'm so excited about it." She's like, "My branding's not anywhere near the level of yours, but I just can't compare." I was like, "That's exactly it. You can't compare." Because if the me that I was even a year ago looked at the stuff that I have now, I would have been like, "I can't start. I can't start because how could I ever get there?" How isn't the question. You just start from where you are. I look back on this video of me like a little chicken nugget. A year ago, I had curly haired bangs and I came out as a hypnotherapist on the internet and told people what I was doing. I never could have dreamed that my business and my brand could grow to what it is now. And so, but if I had never started because I worried about where I was, I never could have gotten here. So the journey isn't who and how and what. It's to just start. Look at where you want to go and start walking towards it. Don't judge the path. Just start taking steps. You've got this. You're amazing. I believe in you. Sending you all lots of love. Thank you so much for being here today. And bye for now.